So, hello. I received an email from one of our students in the learning design course subject, Designing for Learning, and I wanted to create this short video. Now, she is our learner, is works in sports administration. So here we are on the field. I'm going to share the detail, de-identified detail of the email, and I'll talk through some of the issues. And I like this a lot because sometimes if we're working, say, for a university or a school or a registered training organisation, sometimes our curriculum, as in our learning outcomes or whatever you want to call them, is provided. We just pick them. We need to comply and meet those learning requirements. However, in the world of sports administration or lots of corporate contexts, we have to actually develop the learning outcomes. So the email is partly about that. So I'll just share this. You should be able to see this. Hi, Mark. Um, Now, first of all, she is narrowing the scope down, which is a really good thing. Sometimes when we are first introduced to this thing called learning design, and all of the theories and models and approaches, it can get a bit overwhelming that aspect. But when we start digging around looking for some learning outcomes, we realize there's about 150 of them. And sometimes they need to be broken down, further refined. So because we have limited time, limited word count, we are not going to develop a whole program of learning. In fact, we won't be developing the content, we're developing just the blueprint, the learning design plan. So narrowing down the scope is a good thing. Um, we don't want a whole onboarding program, just focus on one specific aspect of the role and build the program around that. I like that a lot. It's a way to manage one's cognitive load. Um, I'm thinking of using the end-to-end process of creating and managing a course seminar in the LMS. Okay, so instantly we've got layers of it's not just about sport content and administration content, it's about possibly it's about the end-to-end process of managing a course. So I don't know for sure, but we just need to tease that out a little bit because it could be both. It could be more about the development of the course. It could be about the the kind of administration within the course. We don't know yet. Yeah, so I guess this is a little clue. Learner completions are correctly recorded. So that strikes me as one of the admin tasks is of this sports administrator is managing the learners. And those learners may be coaches or trainers or players. We don't know yet. So there's layers. So a lot of this early analysis, this is what we do in the analysis phase. We don't just kind of come up with a fluffy process and kind of leave it. We need to sort of reach into the nitty gritty, and the context is really important. And this person is well placed because she's working within a context of sports administration. She knows her learners and what they prefer to do, etc. Well, we'll get onto that more in a minute. This is I don't have all the information, but there's enough to kind of justify me recording this video just to keep things moving. Um, I've already replied and I asked permission if I could use this email, but I just said yes, you are on the right track. Currently, I have a word vomit. That's very poetic in the scenario. For the scenario, yeah. So we don't need to know that yet. Um, let's just have a look at these. Okay, now I've already done a little bit of work on these. So here are the learning outcomes. These are a little bit too long and a bit clumsy. So when we're reading SSO, I don't know what SSO stands for, but the administrators can demonstrate how to create. We could get rid of that. I know it's a bit brutal for me to put a line through it. We could that's all kind of blah, 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 blah. We could have that in a preliminary sentence or two because the verb we're looking for is probably create. We want to create, we want to see them create a course within the system. That could be the LMS for learners to register. Now, I teased these out so that they're expanded into two. I'm just going to go and get my notes, what I replied with. Hang on. Because I'm not going to type them all in. Hang on, where are we? Now, this is not me doing her assignment for her. And in fact, it's kind of it's fluid and iterative at the moment. And I'm just taking a best guess. I don't know exactly, but I've just maybe create a course seminar within the LMS. That's a kind of that could be done a course without a lot of detail. It could be just to kind of create that could arguably in some LMSs that could be done within less than a minute. We don't know. I don't even know what the LMS is. So, and then create Luna registration functionality. I don't know that I've just phrased it that way. But again, there's a verb. What are we actually kind of achieving? Learner, I've just put learner registration functionality. I don't know. It could be the content for that. It could be a button. We don't know. But it might be worth separating them. Manage attendee requirements within a single seminar session. So probably attendee, I don't know what the attendee requirements are, but I can see that verb there. I just changed that. Again, these are just suggestions. List and describe. I'm just going to make that a bit bigger. List and describe a range of attendee requirements within a typical seminar session. It may be the reason we go and make this sort of approach is because manage is probably too big. It's a valid verb, that's for sure. But how do we know they've done a good job? This probably doesn't have an assessment, but we always have to, it's a good idea to think about these things in terms of assessing them, even if we're not going to actually do that, because it's proving. How do we know our learners have achieved that skill or they are able to do this? So I've just put list and describe as an initial learning outcome. Of course, that could be further developed, but with another something or other related to attendee. I just put a range of attendee requirements because it seems like there's a lot packed into that, even though it's within a single seminar session. In fact, I would, if the student was here now, I would ask, well, what are they? Just use plain language to tell me what are these requirements that you're talking about. And it could be something that's actually a lot more simple. I may be overthinking it. Here's another one. I like that there's only three, and it's more manageable for our assignment. Communicate with learners directly through the system. I like that a lot. That just means like in Canvas, I know we have the Canvas inbox, and you can send a message to your facilitator through that, and they're really important tools. So rather than get them to actually do it with real learners, that's what they're going to be doing in the real world. But we want to give them opportunity to practice. So maybe just start them off with describe a range of tools and methods to directly communicate with learners within the LMS. That may be appropriate. She'll have to decide. These are just suggestions. Now, and there's a whole universe of what these could be, and I'm pleased that there's just a handful because there's typically a lot more. We're just starting things out simple and achievable. Then we get to the proposed strategies. So I'm going to work backwards. I really like this final one. One-on-one session. I'm assuming that might be a face-to-face or a Zoom call. The fact that it's one-on-one I want to know, why is that important? It could be about um, a peer mentor, a peer kind of advice or mentoring or something like that. Um, Walk through the seminar life cycle. Maybe it's to double check that they've built something, or they've developed a plan, or they've engaged with this life cycle, seminar life cycle, and they're just double checking. It could be an assessment event, but regardless, it is in there because for a reason, and we have to justify that reason with the academic literature. So this is where this again, I like this because it's bubbled up from the learners and their need, and then what are the skills involved, what's the knowledge, even the attributes. But then we go looking, because we have our short-term memory filled with all these different useful learning theories, frameworks. We go looking for one that's maybe human-centered, or something that's about the real world, or something that is requires or is well positioned to have a one-on-one session, and that could take various forms. The other, working to the second bullet, scenario-based training. So maybe that would imply case studies or a photograph with a description of a real situation. Complete training, seminar training. See, this one's good, but we need a bit more information as to what do you mean by that? Because it's good to have scenario-based training, great, tick, but we always have to link it back to our knowledge and skills. It's very sensible. This might be the most fabulous, engaging scenario that you could dream of within sports administration. But we still need, the reason it exists is because we're aiming to skill up our learners. We're developing their knowledge, their skills or attributes. So what is a little bit more information for this one would be good. But I do like scenario based training, and especially within an LMS, there's more of a challenge and a restriction. What does that look like? Is it a short video? Is it a little cheat sheet? Maybe it's something to do with sports admin, like a card or something. I don't know. It could be a bit cute. Then the first bullet for strategies to achieve the learning outcomes, online interactive module within the learning management system outlining the end-to-end life cycle. I do like what that sounds like, but I would probably ask for more info. What is this end-to-end life cycle? Seems like that could be uh, a infographic or something like that, and it could be like the basis of lots of different activities or discussion, or a quiz or something extra information. So the workflow in itself, and the fact that it's interactive, yes, we're not going to develop it. We're not going to build the actual module, but we are going to describe what's in it. And so these are all three good strategies that are appropriate for the learners, or they sound like they will. Of course, we would confirm that with our academic literature, and we already know the learner requirements, so it should all come together. But we don't need too many of these strategies. In the real world, you might have 15 strategies, online discussion forum, a, um, a face-to-face workshop, a kind of sharing activity. They might be asked to, I don't know, it's all the learning and teaching elements. But if you've got an online interactive module, that could be that. I guess the focus of that could be to justify it. Maybe we might use the HyFlex model, for example, to say, well, we need it online and interactive because of these reasons. We want it to be flexible. But then the content itself is this end-to-end life cycle. So I like the ideas in this. It's just and there's a degree of ambiguity. It's not like there's one correct answer. And this is why I like video, because I can talk through my thinking in regards to very specific content, but already there's a kind of there's ambiguity with some of these that just needs to be clarified. And we can't achieve everything. We just want to make it more manageable. So I'm going to stop sharing. So hopefully what I have just discussed is relevant for any learning area and any learning outcomes. Just this idea of having sometimes there's a bit of chaos, or it's unclear, or you've got too many options. So if you're just refining them initially and being super sensible with our learning outcomes, so that you've got a nice, neat list that has minimal ambiguity. They should be nice and short and sharp. And again, as I said right up front, sometimes that's provided to us in the form of a unit of competency, for example, if you're working for TAFE, or a curriculum document. But in this situation, we have to invent them and create them. But it's all part of this sort of wonderful territory of learning design. So hopefully that helps. And I think I might leave it there. Thank you.